right, welcome to the Broski Doodles podcast. Your host, as always, Kiko Cervantes is here with you. And we have such great guests today. We're going to have so much fun, and we're going to talk about very interesting topics today. We have my friend Daniela, which you probably seen from a previous podcast, Spitting the Fire. And we have her boyfriend, my man Paul. Thank you very much for joining us today, and Merry Christmas to you and your families.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You have an extra guest today that I wasn't expecting, but we'll be able to put her in the podcast. One of the main topics that we wanted to.
Because she's a pretty stiffy. She's expensive.
She's the one you went to with to the vet with that you told me, right?
Yeah.
All right, but she'll be fine.
She'll be fine. This is a fine girl.
All right,
she's sick, but she's fine.
All right, cool.
Good girl face.
Among the topics that we wanted to touch on today, one thing that I've been also thinking about recently with the whole situation that's going on, which I want to also touch on if you think this is something that helps that get worse, but we're talking about addiction, right? And substance abuse in general is something that in America is in the world, it causes a lot of damage, not only to the person that's in it, but to the surrounding environment. And I know that, Daniela, you recently worked in a place for recovery. And one thing that I wanted to first touch on, do you think that this whole quarantine, due to the global situation that's happening, do you think that this has made it worse for people that have addictions to relapse or to make it worse, given that you have to stay home stuck, there's, less jobs, also maybe depression plays in? Do you think that's a factor that helps?
Yeah, for sure. In my own personal opinion, I think so. There's also a lot of people are stuck home, and sometimes home is the worst place for someone to be. They might be dealing with an abusive family member, or they might just have a really bad home situation, and now we're forcing them to stay there. There's also people that, a lot of parents have resorted a lot more to day drinking, now that those lines are a little blurred, just to deal with the kids at home. And yet, a lot of people are just stuck with their own demons at home, and that can be a very scary thing for many. Being stuck somewhere is never a comfortable feeling. So we have, at least at my job, like as you mentioned, I work in a treatment center. We have definitely seen an increase during the pandemic on not only just addiction overall rising, but also the rates of deaths due to overdose. I believe they're up 40%. So it's a lot of people that unfortunately are dying every day. It's really sad. I didn't really know about this until a couple of years ago, but it's a pretty scary
and I definitely agree with you on, I myself, with this whole pandemic thing, I started drinking a bit more. I wouldn't say that I have a specific problem, but I was definitely drinking more than usual, and just being home. I remember I don't know if you ever saw this movie, I think it's called Clerks, where Jay and Silent Bob are on there.
Silent Bob, yeah.
And I think it's Clerks too, maybe. They're getting out of recovery, and they're saying boredom is the main thing to relapse, some shit like that. So it's you gotta keep busy. So yeah, I was saying with this movie, Clerks, Jay and Silent Bob.
Clerks 2.
Did you see that movie?
I've seen it, yes. I've seen it. Clerks 2, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
All right. All right, so Paul's my man with
classics.
the movies. All right, so but I just remember that he said that boredom is the key to relapse or some shit like that. And with all this time to not be able to go out, work, you're stuck like you said, with your demons. And everyone has demons, but the ones that have more, those intensify even more, I think, when situations like this happen.
Yeah.
And
those demons are deadly, man. That's scary.
Now, going into the debate, if it's even one, between it being something that it's like a sickness, a disease, rather than a person's choice, Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's definitely a debate. I've had this conversation. I'm an addict in recovery. Um, I personally think it's a disease. I believe it's a disease. I think it's even. I would even classify it as a genetic disease. I have it in my family. Um, I have scholars in my family who have PhDs. I have others. We all range. I'm definitely the black sheep of my family, that's for sure. But I've noticed when I have two older brothers and an older sister, we all have an addiction. We all have something. Mine just happens to be a substance. I have a brother who's obsessed with collecting toys. He has rooms. Picture a comic book store in his whole house, and he just has an obsession. It's more of like an OCD obsession, which I would actually classify addiction as. I definitely can get obsessive and compulsive over a substance. My sister, the way that I saw her with her education to get on her way to get a PhD, just obsessed. She became obsessed with it until like we get there, and then once they're there, they're good. They move on to something else. The thing with substances, there's no destination with it. It's constant grabbing for something that's not there. If that makes any sense.
No, perfect sense. So would you even say that there are positive addictions or like
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think if everything in moderation, even substances with some people. I know people who can do cocaine on the weekend and they have a full-time job. They got kids who are in nice schools and they can do that. I think as long as you can do it in moderation, if you can.
But then it's not an addiction. I don't think an addiction can be good.
I think addiction, in my opinion, is letting your life become out of and into chaos. Not being able to manage your own life.
Okay.
Is what I think an addict falls under. Now, I think that could also fall into routine though. What if every weekend I do this?
Right, because like, what about like people that would be considered functional addicts? Like, would you say that that's something? Like, I would assume there's people that, let's say, do cocaine 4 or 5 times a week, and they just do it in a way where they still go to work every day. I mean, would that be considered okay, even though they can, quote unquote, manage it?
I mean, that's an addict's dream, wouldn't you say? Like, be able to...
Yes,
that's an addict's dream,
my dream.
You'd say?
If
We've talked about this before, and Paul says, like, he still wants to do the substances. The one is still there, very much so, but he knows he can't, or he's gonna wind up dead. But just, it's true, like, that, we're not even exaggerating.
Yeah. The want will always be there, the need is no longer there, which I think is where the debate comes in. Is this a disease or a choice? Truthfully speaking, the first one you take, I think, is a choice. I made that choice to pick it up, and once I picked it up, the choice is out the window. I have to do this until I can go get professional help to literally separate me from this substance, lock me up if need be, to get me away from it.
So you're saying like it would never go away? It's an ongoing battle?
This
Every
is my
day.
personal experience. It's some days are definitely easier than others. I can go days without thinking about it, and then the other day at Christmas, it was just on my mind and on my mind. Out of all days, Christmas. Christmas, I have it's the history of that and Christmas as well. It was just really on my mind on Christmas. I had to talk about it with someone, and then there's days where like I'm fine. What you said about Clerks and being bored, definitely bored is a factor. When I'm alone and here, it's dangerous. As I usually work 8 to 10 hours a day, Monday through Friday, usually on the weekend, and I stay busy. If I'm not doing that, I'm doing something with her, and I'm usually very busy. That keeps my mind off of all this other garbage, But this quarantine, people home alone in the most dangerous place they can possibly be, in their head and thoughts.
Was this substance that fucks with you?
I mean, I would say my drug of choice is definitely opiates, but I mean, I've explored all of them to the point where I've turned into a garbage can. And if it's there, if it's smokable or injectable, I'll do it. But what really got me off the rails was heroin, to be exact. I had always been this functioning addict from 12 to 25. And then along my path, somehow I was in Overtown with a friend of mine, and we couldn't get these pills because you got to wait to the beginning of the month because of prescriptions. And he told me, this is a very popular story as well. Heroin's a cheaper route than pills, and it's stronger too. Why not? And in my mind, I'm like, it makes total sense. It's cheaper, it's stronger, and it's more readily available. Why not? I never thought about the consequences. I never thought about I could possibly die. I never thought about DARE, the stuff in school.
Now, this was going from taking a pill to injecting something?
Yeah, you can inject it, but I started off by smoking it.
Okay, so like my question is because I'm trying to see like where was that barrier, right? Like, because I would assume that it's a lot less of a barrier if you go. Because am I correct in saying that you also can smoke the pills?
Some, yeah. From what I've heard, I'd never done it. I always swallowed them. I was never, huge into needles and stuff until I met this so-called friend of mine.
Okay, so then you jumped to the smoking, and that was a bit easier transition then into the injecting.
Yeah. I went from swallowing pills to smoking heroin and I wanted to try and do everything I could before putting a needle in my vein. So to the point where I met another so-called friend in Overtown who showed me intramuscular shooting. You don't necessarily need to put it in your vein. You can put it in your muscle, and it's a little bit longer of a release, but it's better than smoking it. And of course, I always want the bigger and better thing, right? So I was doing that for a while. And then one day, my curiosity mixed with my sense of adventure was like, let's see what else. What are my limits here? How much further can I take this, and how much better can it get? Until that day where I put it in my vein, and then once you hit that point, everything else is garbage. There's the muscle, the taking the pills, none of it does it unless you shoot it in the vein. So from there, it was all just downhill from there.
Okay. And the other thing is once you go from the pills to this, now it's no longer like a thing made in a lab. Now it could be anything, right?
Fentanyl, rat poison, soap. I've had it all, man.
Okay. And you said something there, like once you try that, it's like nothing, everything else is nothing. So like
not enough.
Yeah.
So like, for example, coming from me, right? Like I'm not a saint. I like to have a few wines, a few beers, sometimes smoke a thing here or there, and that's just who I am. For someone like you, thinking of that, is that something that's just like, nah, that doesn't cut it?
It doesn't cut it as in like, would I classify you as an addict?
No, I'm saying like,
or a problem?
No, like if you like.
The thing is having a couple of wines.
Like for you, thinking enough. Of you having some wines and things, is that something that is not enough for you to enjoy because
he will never have 2 cups of wine.
It's not an option for me now. For me, I go by this saying, it's called 1 is too many and 1,000 is never enough. What that means is I can never smoke a joint again because I've gone down this path into the ultimate drug there is. If I smoke a joint, as soon as I get high, I'm going to be like, wow, that's fun.
What's next?
But I know a much better high. As soon as I drink a glass of wine, oh, that was a nice buzz, but I know a better buzz. It's not the buzz I want.
Damn.
It just starts.
It just starts
deep. Like
that's deep because it's like something that I might have fun with, like because this one is like it got nothing on this one in that comparison, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting the way that works. And you said
There's never...
1 is too many, 1,000 is not enough.
It's never enough. Yeah, I can't just have one. It's gonna have to be more. And then once I get there, I can do 1,000, and it'll never be enough for me. I want more, and I want more, and I want more. So the best bet for me is don't touch any of it. Complete abstinence. Which is sometimes it's an hourly struggle for me. You know, it's usually a daily struggle, but sometimes I'm literally on the hour. Just get by the hour, bro. Just get by the hour. You know, it's as the days of sobriety grow higher and higher for me, it gets easier. You know, the first 90 days is hell. It gets easier. It definitely gets easier. But with that being said, I've used to, I would I would basically numb my emotions and numb everything to where I don't have to feel anything. You know, I would going through life as just this numb creature who doesn't have to deal with pain, doesn't have to deal with sadness, which also numbs my happiness and all that other shit as well. So I was just this numb being, right?
Zombie.
A zombie, essentially. They're a perfect example. I was a zombie. Now that I'm clean and I'm sobering and I've made it out of there alive, now here's life. My emotions are all here. Now I have to deal with pain. Now I have to deal with sadness. Now I have to deal with I'm super emotional. And, you know, everything is extreme for me. So, and I have to find a way to deal with that. Before I used to just numb it. How do I deal with this crap now? You know, and I had a very big problem with that at first. And it's just finding your way. You know, therapy helps me a lot. You know, things like that. It's not easy though. It's definitely not easy.
Do you think on speaking about things that help support? Because I would assume that this also needs a supporting system around you, right? Like, for example, you think pets, because I do see that you've added new pets to the family. Do you think that helps?
Yeah.
When on the
Pets
recovery?
help. Yeah, pets definitely help. Sometimes her and I will fight. We'll get into a really bad fight. And I just pick up my cat and I'm like, oh. And I'll tell her, grab the cat. Just grab the cat. You'll feel better, I promise. Yeah, cat. You
And we're like,
reminds me
furious
of that movie, Take Him to the Greek, when they're
Take
in
Him to the Greek,
when they're
yes.
in that place, like smoking the Jeffrey, and
Yes.
Puff Daddy's like, touch this.
Yes.
feels so good.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna wrap my whole house around this shit.
Pets help.
It gives you a sense of
Responsibility. Unconditional love. Like, you cannot afford to be home depressed all day.
For example,
animals need you.
Coming
right?
from someone like, I think I have a bit of an addiction with food. Do you think, in your case,
One of
like
the biggest addictions.
eating something good, does that help, or does it still fall under the category like this doesn't touch anything?
Oh, I love food.
Okay.
I love food. I see my addiction with the way I eat sometimes, and you might see it as well. I'm really weird, man. I go through like my phases, and I'll go through like my super healthy, like go to the gym all the time. I'm not eating that cake phase, and then I'm like,
Eat all cake all every day.
cake. It's almost like
It's
a binge.
very extreme.
Yeah, it's either up here or it's way down here. I'm usually not here.
Okay.
I'm somewhere way different.
So now that he's in recovery, his addiction's still there, but it's just like this certain behaviors.
It's different outlets now.
And he's like he always says like, I'm not a normal person, and it's not like the way he thinks sometimes is very different than like your common person. The way he, his feelings right now, they're different because as a 32-year-old man, he's feeling now things that he should have been feeling for over a decade.
I'm emotionally a 20-year-old.
Okay.
Essentially.
Just because you for that long you've sort of hid all these things underneath this numbness.
And it hinders your growing. It hinders maturity. It hinders all of that. I didn't have to, getting a mortgage, getting a credit card.
Having a routine.
Things that you go through in your 20s to 30s.
Adulting.
I missed all of that, and I basically stayed in a dark corner just getting high. And I didn't want any of that shit. I didn't want to grow up. I don't want to be an adult. I didn't want to be a functioning member of society. I didn't want any of that shit. So I strayed away as far as I could. Here I am now, 32.
Like re-entering society.
I'm basically re-entering society with the mentality of like a 22-year-old. I just got like my second credit card. It sucks, but I'd rather have this than the alternative.
Well, if it helps, in your case, that sort of hinder you. I've had to start over many times in my life for other things, and like I have one credit card now. I live in a very small, so like I guess if there's many things that could set you back, and I think and I'm your age now, so that's why it sort of put me in perspective. I think as long as we want to always strive forward, I think there's hope.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to ask you about
Absolutely.
this too. Even though, like, I sometimes, right, when I want to have a beer or something and like, oh, I want to lose weight, and you have that little battle with yourself, it's hard for me to not do it. But then there are times when I felt bad and then I start eating healthy and I feel good and I'm just like, fuck, man, I just like this. Like, I just like being normal right now. Do you think that at times it does help you thinking maybe how nothing you were doing before, how much you were wasting your life, and the fact that you have an opportunity to actually live a life, right, that's worth, that has meaning, all this? Do you think that alone gives you some sort of high to keep going with it? Like, people that may be in a step behind yours, do you think like you see that hope and it gets better as it goes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's definitely motivating. And let me just say this real quick before I forget about it. There is no possible way I could be where I am today without her. There is absolutely no way I could have done it. I think in order to make it out, successfully, you need to have a good support system and someone who believes in you, who calls you on your shit, who calls you out when you're trying to manipulate them, who will love you unconditionally. And you need that, and it's really hard to find. It's very common for addicts to date addicts, and it's just a cesspool of toxicity that I've never wanted to get into. I've never dated an addict. So I was very lucky to find her and for her to help me, thank God. So that's very important. With that being said, this opportunity that I have now, right, to move forward, it's definitely motivating. However, there's a factor, and I wanted to actually ask you, maybe you can relate with this with food. As you get better and you get better, you get more clean time, or maybe you lose more weight, and you go, shit, man, I've been doing really good. I should
treat
fucking reward myself. And there's a reward system that I have to where every time I look at I have a clock on my phone that tells me how much clean time I have, and I go, shit, man, I got 400 days clean. I should enjoy it with a little hit. I can do just one, and that's my mind. That's a little voice in my head telling me that, and I have to ignore it and go back to my one is too many, 1,000 is never enough thing. Reward factor, man, it's terrible, and it's got me 4 times. I relapsed all 4 times because of that.
And it's such a piece of shit because you know what's funny, dude, and that this is why you can sort of see the medical side of it, because I go through the same bullshit. Obviously, the stakes are not as high, but it's the same fucking concept, right?
Mentality.
Like I have 20 days eating well, exercising, and I'm like, yo, dude, what's good, bro? Let's have a little Domino's pizza, and tomorrow we're back at it. And it turns out into a 6-month, carbohydrate binge.
Exactly.
And then you're like, fuck, what the fuck happened?
What the fuck happened? Exactly.
Okay.
I've been there myself, man.
What is, and obviously, I mean, I'm speaking from somebody that's failed at it. You have said that you failed. What do you think in those moments? And it's not an easy answer, and I'm not looking for one, but I guess I just want to know from your end, what is that thing that you go to when you're in that fucking weak moment, when you have that little motherfucker in your brain saying, dog, you're not going to reward yourself? Come on, dog, it's life. Come on, you done all this good work and shit.
You only live once.
YOLO.
Yeah. Especially when I know people who are like doing it on the weekends and they go to work on Monday. I'm like, what the fuck? Why can't I do that? I can't do that, It's really a matter of acceptance for me. I've accepted the fact that, dude, I just can't do that, man. I'm going to have to pick up something else. A hobby, hobbies are really important to me too. They keep me off of things. But accepting, which is very hard to do. It sounds really easy, but I've had to accept the fact that I can never get high again. And I can be around people who can do it, and I'm just going to have to envy them. Maybe I can live vicariously through them and enjoy highs. I don't know. But accepting it and praying, that's usually what I do when I'm in that case.
Do you think, I mean, that's an interesting take there. Do you think it could help or mess up someone to be around people that are doing substances, not in a I guess super negative format, just people that maybe control it, have a few wines, smoke a joint on the weekends? Do you think being around people is it easier for you, or because like that's something I remember my dad for a while, he like almost died, and I don't know if it was specifically for drinking or he just had like a thing, but it all sort of exploded and he almost passed away. And I remember like he couldn't drink anymore, right? And before, me and him used to like kind of party, and and then after that he couldn't drink, but he would like go to places with me. He would buy me a beer, like, and he's almost felt like part of me was like, shit, should I be doing this in front of him? But part of me saw him like, yeah, you drink it, and then we talk shit, and it almost feels like it's the same thing.
It's part of it, right?
How do
You're
you
gonna
feel?
pretend I'm drunk.
How do you feel?
I mean, I would not recommend somebody in their first, I'm going to say minimum 90 days, to be around any of that. Part of the program that I'm in, we have a lot of these little cliche quotes. One is too many, 1,000 is enough, just for today. And one of them that is very important to me, that's the only way I was able to do this time, was you have to change your people, your places, and your things. That job that I had when I was bartending, I can no longer do that. Those people that I used to chill with on Fifth, I can no longer hang out with them, and hanging out on the weekends. Whether I'm drinking or not at that club, I can no longer do it. I had to change all of that. I had to leave all those people in the dust. I had to never go to that place again, and I had to do that. Being around people today, I do it. I go to brunch sometimes with her friends, and her friends like to drink sometimes, and one of them likes to pressure me sometimes. Can I tell the story? I'll make it really quick. So we got to brunch, right? This is my first time really meeting her friends.
This was a while back.
This was over a year ago, and I used to live near Las Olas. So we go to Las Olas, we go to brunch, and I tell her, I go, listen, I'm a little uncomfortable, and brunch is all about mimosas. I get it. I'm a little uncomfortable, but I'll go for you. I know your friends want to meet me. I don't want to be the ghost boyfriend that never comes around. Let me go. So I go, I meet them, and like within 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, who wants drinks? Let's get drinks.
Is that gonna
Not
hurt?
her, it was her friend who was like really wanted to get this party started, and Paul, would you like a mimosa? No, I'm good, thank you. I was kind. I was like, I appreciate it. I'm good though. And she's like,
But why?
What do you mean? No. You're having a mimosa. Here, has a mimosa. And I'm like, thank you, but no thank you. She wasn't like getting the hint. And then she like persisted one more time. And at this point, like everybody's looking at me now. And I had to, and I could have been so much, I could have done what I really wanted to do, but I didn't do it. I told her, I was like, listen, she asked me why. And I said, I'll put it this way. I've consumed more alcohol than probably all of you ever will. And because of that, I can no longer partake. That's a good way of saying it. I got my message across, and she apologized. She's like, oh my God, I didn't know this and that. I'm sorry. I guess you didn't tell them. I don't know. And then at one point, I had to go to the bathroom, and I took a little bit longer in the bathroom because I was literally in the bathroom praying, like, God, don't let me do it. I don't want to do it. Let me just get through this. I can get through this fucking brunch. It's just brunch. And I got through it, but it wasn't easy. That was a little bit earlier in recovery for me, but that's why I would recommend people doing it. Not unless like you really can. Like I wouldn't go to a bar and just chill and have a Coke. I would never fucking do that. I know people who can though.
We don't keep alcohol over here. Our home is pretty clean. When we go out, like I generally don't drink. When we go out to eat, it's also like we're not going to like a nightclub. We're not going to a bar. We're not going to any of those places where like everybody's clearly drinking. So we try to stay away from environments that are too like party heavy. And if I'm going to one of those, I usually go by myself, or like I check with Paul and I'm like, this is the environment. People are probably gonna get wasted, like. Because sometimes you go to party and there's no shame in that. It's
Absolutely.
just, he's just uncomfortable there. So sometimes I'm like, this is the kind of place. Do you want to go? Are you sure you're cool with it? If not, you can stay. I think something that helps us is like that. If you feel uncomfortable, then that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That story you're saying, like, I could totally see myself being that chick, like, because like for example in Venezuela, Latin America is like and I'm not sure if maybe this friend was Latin too, like
Yeah.
She was.
like if I was
It's
with
not
some
ill
people-
intent.
like yeah, if I was with some friends and somebody that I didn't know was there, like no, I don't wanna. I'd be like maybe not now,
Come
just because
on.
I'm a bit older and maybe I don't know, but I could see myself being in the past like, hey, come on, man, just have. What do you mean you're not drinking? What's up? And
Exactly.
I wouldn't have ever thought of like maybe there's like, but maybe I can remember one time somebody telling me something like, nah, man, I already drank it all. And I remember with my dad, he used to tell people something like that, like, oh, you want to have one? And it's like, nah, I already drank it all. So now he used to say something like, I drank the whole Pacific. Now I'm looking at the Atlantic or some shit. So I'm not. But he would say like some little quirky joke, and then
Yeah.
so I think that was like I guess nice of you. But I could definitely see how the challenge is still there.
Yeah.
Especially you seeing in them be so casual about it, and you're like, your mind could play tricks with you. Like, what do you mean? You could just have a mimosa
Everybody's so chill about
and
it.
then go,
Yeah.
play Monopoly at home or whatever.
So-
No, yeah, and I've been there. I remember hanging out with my friends, and I was like, no, because when I drank, man, I would drink until the lights came on and last call. That was me. And my friend, I'm going home. It's midnight. I'm like, fuck no, you're not going home. You're staying out with me all night. And I pressure the shit out of my friend. So I definitely know how it is, and I know she didn't have any ill intent towards me. She wasn't being nefarious or anything, but she just didn't know.
Yeah.
She didn't know. Maybe she does now. I don't know, but. And there's never really ill intent when it comes to things like that. I know now to not put myself in those situations where shit might happen. I gotta remove myself from it now.
Before we leave this topic, because I have other things here that I want to touch on that are very interesting as well. What would you say to people that are in that path to recovery? At any sort of part of that line, right? I guess. Like that would keep them in. I think this is something that also would apply to just everybody because I myself I have this issue where it's almost exactly the same the mental part and little fuck that goes in your brain when it's trying to fuck with you and give you this little reward bullshit system. What's something that you would recommend people that are in that process that could help them? And I know you said some, so you already said some too, but just to sort of close anything that you...
Yeah. I mean, what I would tell I would... It's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but it's worth it. It's worth it, to see your life change. My life 3-4 years ago, compared to where I am today, it's literally, for me, it's a miracle. It is a miracle. That's why the odds are not in our favor at all. It's definitely not easy, but it's worth it. There are a lot of resources out there that I didn't know. There's so much stuff out there that's available. You just have to look for it. This is not going to happen on its own. I've been through that too, where I'm like, oh, just one more. Next week I'll start. Next week I'll get back on the diet. Next week I'll get back on the wagon. And then 3 years later, here I am. It's not going to happen on its own. That fuckery, I call it mind fuckery. It's going to keep lying to you and telling you, yeah, tomorrow, yeah, next week, yeah, next month. It's not going to happen on its own. You got to put in some kind of work. This is not a time to be lazy.
That's deep, because that fucking resonates with me. And that little next time
Next time,
can
man.
fuck with you.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's
2
inspiring.
years later, there you are.
And it's
First
definitely
start
gonna
today, man.
it's gonna inspire me to start doing this tomorrow. No, I'm kidding.
Right now. I'm gonna go jog real quick while we're recording.
Nah, for real, Paul. I'm gonna start this shit next week for reals, dog. No, but moving on to some other things. I was speaking in some of my podcasts that I do in Spanish with a friend of mine, because in Argentina, I mean, this has happened in other sports, but in Argentina, there was this first female transgender playing in the professional football or soccer league. And, obviously the whole thing is, what a brave person. And, I'm politically, I'm like a libertarian. So the essence of what I believe is like, I want everybody to do whatever the fuck they want. As long as he doesn't fuck with me, I don't care. I want you to be happy, all this and that. But obviously, this comes into like a weird territory where is it fair for the other girls there? You know, it's like imagine Paul puts a wig and says, "I'm gonna go play, grass hockey with the girls." I mean, he's gonna fuck some ladies up. So, what do you think is if you have any opinion on this, like? And it's fine if you're still making an opinion on it, because I myself am too. Like, I'm always testing this hypothesis to see what. But what do you think about this happening now in our days?
You want me to go first?
Ladies first.
I'm like torn. There's two sides of it. I'm like, yeah, it's good for you. If you feel like a girl, go be a girl. You want us to call you whatever female name, sure, whatever, fine, I'm cool with that. Good for you if it makes you a happier person. But then it affects me because now I could be that girl competing against you, and then you have an advantage. Like, I understand you feel like a girl, you want to be a girl, cool, but the body you're in and what's behind this and behind the makeup or no makeup or the hair, whatever, it's a man's body, and you're built like a man, and you have an advantage in sports over me. And that shit's not cool. Like I competed last year for jiu-jitsu, and some girl beat me up. But, like, imagine if that was a dude. They would have had no chance. Like, at least, I won a couple, lost a couple. If that would have been a dude, like, none of us would have had a chance, and that's just not fair. Like, I don't know. I feel bad for them that I guess, they want to compete with girls because they're more comfortable. But at the same time, like, it's not cool. It's not fair.
What do you think, Paul?
I don't think I'm really torn.
Paul's like, I don't give a fuck.
I'm not torn in a direction. I like to think I'm logical, man, and I try and look at something at a logical perspective. I really try my best to take my emotions and my feelings out of it. I'm very emotional, and I have a lot of feels, so sometimes it's hard for me to do that. And when I heard about this, transgenders in athletics, my initial reaction was like, okay, so you're cheating. It's cheating to me. It's not fair. We'll put it that way. It's not fair. Maybe it's not cheating, but it's not fair. It's definitely not fair. I think it had good intentions. Just like a lot of things that are going on today. These protests and, BLM, I think they start off with good intentions. And next thing you know, things kind of get turned a little bit. Maybe someone hijacks it. Someone might make a mockery of it. Or someone might take advantage of it. Which is, I can go literally put on a wig and go shatter records right now if I want to. And it's no longer a hypothetical. People are doing that now.
Yeah.
There are men... I'll call, a transgender man who's now a woman, I'll call her, or whatever name, Jane, whatever, are going there and shattering records and taking those opportunities that she trained her fucking ass off for that fight. I went with her, I recorded her. Did all that training for some guy to walk
Bro, I'll be so mad.
Crack your fucking head open.
Fuck
it's not
no. You
fair.
know what? Like, it's interesting the way that you're looking at it, Daniela. Like I'll be so mad because it almost feels like there's some people that wanna grab this debate and make it look like, oh, so men are stronger than women. Well, it's not that we're better,
Absolutely.
but there's a biological difference. It's just like men, like I gave this example. Men that fight in boxing or MMA, whatever. There's a weight class, right? There's a weight class because there's definitely, like, we're aware of the advantage someone that has 30 more pounds of muscle is gonna make. So, like, why, if we are addressing that and aware of it, why are we ignoring the fact? Like, I could tell you 1,000 things women are better than us at.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like women don't need all the muscle and size to control the fuck out of the world. Okay, let's just make that clear, right? Let's make that clear. Then after we make that clear, then why can't we fucking understand that there's a size difference? And because of that, it's not fair. Like, especially there was one that fought MMA in the UFC and like broke a girl's skull.
Yeah. I was just watching Joe Rogan's podcast talking about her. It's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. And she went in saying that she was a woman. She didn't say that she was
No
a trans.
way.
She went in saying she was a woman. Later on, we found out after she
That's
cracked.
fucked up.
Yeah, found out that she was
See,
transgender.
like I feel like it matters. It matters to no one but the athletes. And me as an athlete that has competed in things like this, if I find out that I get beat because it's a fucking dude, I would be very fucking mad, and that's not cool. Why can I enter a kid's competition then? I feel like a 12-year-old girl. Let me go and like kick some kid's ass, bro. Like,
imagine Paul like all the little kids things like I identify as a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
So-
I'm gonna fuck all your kids up.
Right. Yeah, I think
it's not fair.
it's not fair, and I think it's just there's too many doors that are open with it, that allow certain things to come. And you just set a perfectly good example. We're allowed to change our genders. We're not allowed to change our race, though. I can identify as a woman, but I can't identify as a black woman. We're not allowed to change our age, but we're allowed to change our gender, though. Let's just say we were allowed to change our age, and I was allowed to identify as a 16-year-old. Now I can fight them legally. Now can I also have relationships with them legally now? It just opens different doors.
Yeah, that is true. It's such a slippery slope. When
It's
you
a
start
very slippery
when you
slope.
start giving things that are facts and start thinking of them as opinions
Yeah.
and shit. Like come on, man. Like, I was talking yesterday. I saw this documentary. Well, not a documentary, like a podcast, right? In Spain, and there was this transgender man who used to be a woman and is now a man, which is actually the easiest transition, from what I understand, because this person actually looked like a man. Like a
Right.
like a smaller man, but looked like a man, right? And he actually was very made sense on a lot of things. He wasn't cool about this whole giving kids hormones since they're little, or everyone that says it. So he was pretty cool about it. And he even said I wanted to be a man because there's characteristics of being a man that I like. But if you could not look like a man and say you're a man and then tell people, oh, you're fucking calling me a her, what? He's like, that's sort of against why I did this in the first place. You know what I mean? And it's true.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
if you're saying, oh, why you think I'm a woman? Because I'm just like a woman. I feel like a man. Well, then fucking look like a man. And I don't want to be mean about it. But he even said I look like a man, so I don't have a problem with people misgendering me. But he's like, but I couldn't hold people accountable for the whole life having a vision of what a woman is. And as animals, we recognize that quickly. Oh, hello, you, or, she or her or him. And then for you to be you don't look like a man, but you expect people to know that you want to be called a man. So when he said that, I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm not fucking insane.
You're not. No,
this.
You're not
and
insane.
the thing is, I don't want it to look like I'm against these people, because when I was hearing this transgender talk, I was super emotional and sentimental. Man, this guy seems like he's got it figured out. And he did know apparently that he was the other sex since he was very little. And he says that for him it would have helped to have that, but that he does feel today there's a fad, being transgender is cool, and he thinks it's dangerous. But at least he understood the effects and the consequences of it. One thing that he was talking about that I didn't agree with, and this comes to the same topic we were saying, this fighter that went and fought with women and he used to be a man, he didn't tell them, right? He was like, I'm a woman. Now, this guy that I was listening to, the transgender, he was saying that also, if you're a transgender, you maybe you shouldn't have to tell the person if you're gonna have sex with that they were or didn't or whatever, and that it's a thing of miseducation, that we have been educated to think that if you're a guy, you need to see a vagina, and he went into that hole, and I was like, oh fuck, I was agreeing with everything, and then he went into this. Because I think that touches on your personal sexual preferences, and that's very personal. I think you know what I mean. I think I don't mind anything that you do, but I'll tell you my stance, and then you can tell me yours. But I feel that if you are a transgender man and or woman, and you come on to me, and I know that, and I want to be with you, that's cool and that's beautiful. But if you're doing it out of deceivement, and I'm sorry, I understand that you feel that way. Even though I don't understand it, I respect it. But it's no, I think I also deserve respect to know, I don't know. I guess it's touchy because some people might say oh, no, you're transphobic. But I don't know. I just think it's normal to think that. How do you feel about it? Hey, Paul looked at Anita like, you go for it on this one.
I think that you should. I mean, maybe if it's like a one night stand, like maybe not.
And also, Daniela, when you're thinking of this, also think of it in reverse, right? Like a woman used to be a woman, then turned into a guy, and then met you at a bar, and now you're thinking of the same thing, you know? Because sometimes some people like to be very progressive when it's the other one doing it. So like getting character as well. How would you feel?
I guess you don't need to tell me, but I'm gonna find out, and then I'm gonna turn you down because I'm not into chicks. So fine, don't tell me, but then don't get mad when I'm like, "Where's your dick? You don't have one."
Okay, right. I mean, because that's the other part that like eventually you're gonna know. I mean, unless the operation.
I mean, unless you have operation.
That post-operation, you know, that there are transgender women who look very, very feminine. And I watch a YouTuber, Blair White. I really am interested in her views.
I've heard of her. She's really cool. And she looks super hot.
You would never. She just came out because everyone's been asking her like, did you get it? Did you get the surgery? And she just came out and said that she hasn't gotten it yet because it messes with you. You know, statistically, it shows that transgenders, the suicide rate is over 40. It's like 42% versus us. I'm not going to say normal people. That's terrible. Versus non-transgender, where a suicide rate is 7. So that's a really big jump. And a lot of it is when you have that, you know, that surgery, it messes with you chemically, I'm assuming. It messes with you a lot there. And it also desensitizes almost all of it. So that's why she hadn't gotten it. Anyways, there are a lot of transgender women out there that can definitely pass.
So do you care?
It depends.
It depends. Like if it's a one night stand.
If I never know about it and I feel like I just boned some hot chick, I guess I won't care.
Right?
Now, let's say I think like you want me to tell you if I have AIDS, right?
But AIDS is not the same as being transgender.
Yeah, but like people would say that, and I'm just being a devil's advocate. People would argue like also AIDS is the same as being transgender. No, but I do think that it does fall under the category of like fucking disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
I mean, do I have to be like, hey, by the way, I got my boobs done? No, it's just surgery. Like
that's not gonna affect me emotionally and mentally though.
Yeah, because that's the thing. That shit could scar someone.
Fuck me up.
I think that
absolutely,
shit
man.
That shit could grab someone that already has issues and fucking howl like, yo, who am I?
You think so?
Not me, but like I think someone.
Really?
If someone's very
against that, you think?
Well, I think if someone's very
like a very religious. No, because if you were religious, you wouldn't be doing that.
Maybe, yeah.
I think if someone was very self-conscious about themselves, very self-conscious with, you know, maybe the way they look, their sexual performance, and they're at a bar and they finally meet somebody and it's this really pretty woman and then, wow, this woman's paying attention to me. You know, this woman wants to come home with me. You go home and the next thing you know, it's not what you were expecting. That might scar somebody, you know?
Yeah, I think that might fuck with somebody. I mean, people on the other side would say, well, so what's the matter? It's just sexual experiences, bro. You know, just vibes. But I do think that people deserve their like. I just feel like in my libertarian views, I think that's where your liberty of being whoever you wanna be sort of goes into my.
You're messing with me.
Yeah, like you're coming into my fence now, and that's where I have an issue. Like, but who knows? I mean, maybe we're gonna look like. You know, like backwards people in 50 years, and but I gotta be real with what I feel, you know, and this is how I feel about it.
I agree.
Well, I just watched a video that said if you don't date transgender women, then you're transphobic.
Well, that's real, Paul. That's for real. That's what it. Yeah, but I mean that, or if like, for example,
my preference. We all have our preferences, you know. It doesn't. I'm not afraid of transphobic. Is I have a fear of trans people. I don't have a fear of them. It's just not my cup of tea, you know.
Yeah. And I think as much tolerance that we want, we also should tolerate people that don't want to be involved with certain people. That's not who I am. I can have friends that are whatever. But even the people that are a bit more backwards thinking, like this is how it is. I find that people that don't like intolerant come to a little dead end where they become intolerant for people that don't tolerate what they tolerate.
Of course.
And
you're tolerant until I disagree with you.
Right. So I think it's important, like with me, like if you don't like something I do, or like as long as you don't like fucking attack me for it, like I don't care. Like dude, like if there's people that like here in Spain, I'm not saying that I've had any sort of act of racism or anything like that at all, and it's not something that would even affect me. But if for any reason somebody wasn't cool with like Latin people and they were Spanish, I'm like, all right, as long as you don't come at me, like I don't give a fuck. Like I think you have a right to hate.
You're right.
You know?
Absolutely. Well, that's a big debate right now. Hate speech should hate speech is there even a such thing as hate speech? Some people say they should ban hate speech. As far as I'm concerned, the only speech that is illegal in America, it's different in other places. The only speech that is not tolerated in America is speech that suggests or pushes violence. For instance, I can say I don't like Kiko. I wish Kiko would die. That's fine. But if I say, hey, everyone, let's round up. Y'all need to go kill Kiko. That's illegal. I'm pushing violence towards you. That's the only kind of speech that I am not okay with. Other than that, I've been called white cracker, white racist piece of shit. I've been called basically everything that you can call somebody. And, bro, I brushed it off, man. It's not going to kill me at the end of the day. You know, you have a
Paul,
right to say that.
you do fit the description.
You know, I realize in today's world I fit a category of a Trump-supporting, racist, MAGA hat. Even though I don't necessarily agree with everything that goes on that side, I fit that description of a white privileged male.
Yeah.
Who, you know...
He must be racist.
Well, I find it hypocritical that people want to be so woke that they forget that, like, yeah, you're all being like racist to white people.
Like, racist.
Yeah. Like wait.
They're so woke they forgot what racism is.
They're so woke, and it's like so normal to shit on white people, and I think that's dangerous. I think that's dangerous because
Paul actually got fired because he was racist.
Yeah.
For real.
All right, so since you're gonna bring it up, we got to talk about it. I'll make it very brief. So I was a assistant.
We don't need to say.
Huh?
We don't need to say.
Well, you just said I got fired for being racist. I have to explain.
But like, we don't need to say the place. We don't need to say the place.
I'm not gonna say the place.
Oh, good.
I was an assistant manager of a food
place
downtown Fort Lauderdale, and the way that this establishment had it set up was you had people who come in and order, and you have people who call in and make their order to come get picked up. The way that this protocol was, the people who call in to get their order, when they come in, there's a line of people that are making their orders. This person doesn't just get to skip them and then come pick up their order and bring them out. That's not how it works. I know Starbucks has a separate pickup place. You can't pay for it online, you know, so you got to wait in that line. And then once you come, you know, I know it defeats the whole
purpose of it.
The purpose of what is the word I'm looking for? A convenience, you know. Sorry, that was my protocol there. So 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm just opening the store, and I had someone call in and say, "Hey, I want this." It was a white male. "I want this smoothie," and I knew this person. "Have it ready for when I get there." I said, "No problem." I had it ready. Yes, I had it ready. I put it in the cooler. I have a black woman, my first customer.
No, you didn't have it ready, did you?
I did have it ready.
No.
I have a black woman come in. Good morning, in super high spirits. "I got no problem with black. I don't care what color. I'm dating a Latin person. I don't care.
I'm American.
I really don't care." She comes in, "Good morning." I'm like, "Good morning." She was super peppy for being 6 a.m. And I knew her. Actually, I didn't know her. I didn't recognize her. I had a lot of regulars come in. "Good morning. How are you? Blah, blah. I
super
want this
nice,
smoothie.
super bubbly.
Very nice and super bubbly. "What do you want?" "I want this and that." I said, "Cool." She literally went out of her way to say, "Take your time." And there's cameras rolling. I had all this on camera. "Take your time. I'm in no rush." Those are quotes from her. Cool. So I'm making her smoothie. The white guy comes in to pick up his order. You know what she said? She's in no rush. She said, "I can take my time. Let me just get him out of here real quick." I dropped what I was doing with her, grabbed his smoothie, wrung him out. Maybe 10 seconds I took.
Now he comes in, right? He went in the store too.
But
you had it already. You had it already.
He's supposed to wait behind line. Yeah. I had it already. I just had to go grab it, ring him up, and have him go. Did that, come back. So how's your day, ma'am? And she's a completely different person now. I'm fine. And I'm like, oh shit. What did I did something wrong. And she was the only person. I made it real quick. I'm ringing her out. Have a good day. She like said something sarcastic and walked off. And I was like, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, damn. I honestly didn't even know what I did wrong. Days go by, weeks go by. My manager comes to me and goes, Paul, what the fuck happened on this day? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I just received 4 complaints from corporate about you. 4. I'm like, what are you talking about? Apparently this is an activist. She's a part of a group. Said that you were very racist towards her. I literally, I have to fire you. She said that she was going to have activists outside, was going to shut the whole place down. I'm like, what the fuck? So we pull up the camera footage. We're watching the footage. He's like, I don't understand what you did. Technically, I did not follow protocol. Technically, I didn't. But the only reason why I didn't is because she started the conversation off with, I'm in no rush.
Supposed protocol?
Please. I took the supposed protocol was the person who calls in has to wait behind customers who are in there. I broke protocol only because this person is in no rush. The person who called in is obviously in a rush. That's why he called it in. Let me just get him out real quick, and then I'll take care of the person who's not in a rush. If she would have not told me, I'm doing good, take your time, don't worry, I'm in no rush at all, I would have never done that. But, you know, and it's my fault. I made a bad judgment call. I technically broke protocol. But that falls under, I was racist and had to be terminated from my job for being racist. I took a white person in front of her.
This is for reals.
And she was yeah, this really happened. She threatened to get the place shut down. She threatened to have
the person that fired you, and were they sort of like, fuck man, I'm with you, but I can't do shit? Okay.
Yep.
The person who fired me was my Latin, he was Puerto Rican. Super racist dude. Super racist. Only hired me for the way I look. He go, I don't want black people working here. I don't want Latin people working here. I know white people are more trustworthy, and hired me. The whole staff was white. Had to fire me for this bullshit racist call. You know, I took it on the chin and I learned from it. You know, I definitely learned from it. Now, what does that tell me? Now I need to treat them differently, because if not, I'm going to be called racist, which is literally the epitome of racism.
That's the fucking craziness of it. And I find it funny that you were like, I made a bad judgment call. I went against protocol, and I'm just like, nah, you just did a normal thing. Like,
yeah,
this is crazy.
Yeah, it was just, and I agree with you, it was a normal thing. But if you want to really break it down, technically I broke protocol. Technically, you know, that's how I really had to look at it, because it was bothering me, man. It was.
Bro, no, I mean, I totally understand like, looking at it in a technical way as to not fuck up in the future and be as safe as you can. And like I go through situations like that. I work in an office environment, corporate, right? And I have to sort of like sometimes just make sure that, okay, I'm not saying anything that's okay. But you know, I'm also talking to friends. And I have a dialogue with my friends as a certain way, you know? Like, I mean, if people didn't know, the way that I am here, although very unfiltered, I am sorry to say, I'm worse when I'm alone with my friends. So, and this is not just me, it's everyone. Because if... yeah, if anyone that you knew,
you know, I think
if you heard what they say when they're with your friends, then everybody will be a piece of shit. And this is not to say anything about a person. It's simply because when you are with your closest people, you have certain contexts that are already default, so you know how to fuck with each other and go to the extreme, because that's sort of the dynamics of friendship. Now,
and you know, there's no ill intent behind it. Like, it's just Kiko being stupid. You know, like okay, Kiko's not a fucking crazy racist that's gonna kill everybody. It's just like Kiko's being
right, and that's sort of part of like. That's what makes it cool, right? Because, like, for example, me, I'm a comedy guy. So when I'm with, like, my select group of friends, right? Maybe you go through this as well. And it's almost like, all right, this is our little time to play this little game where I'm trying to fuck with you, right? And the cool part of it is that with my friends, we have some that are, like, really left. And then some of them that are really right. And then when that shit gets started, it's like this friendly but fucking... hostile environment where it's like you fucking communist piece of shit, and then the other's like you rich bastard. I'm not even rich. Yeah, so why do you even support him, you motherfucker? This is why he's like, you're Latino. How can you support Trump? Dog, they're gonna fucking deport you, and then it's just like. And it becomes this battle, so I totally get that. But hey, man, that's a crazy story. I mean, that's gonna be the best clip for this podcast. I'm telling you. I mean,
that's what happened, man. That's a true story.
And
he was dating me already.
Yeah, you and I were dating, and I told her about it, and she was like, "Shut the."
She's like, "I knew it. I knew you were."
Like, bro, you're not gonna. I knew it.
I was like,
you
also
fit the description.
No, so you started dating me, so they wouldn't think you're racist, huh?
Like, those are the type of people that are looking for anything to confirm their own bias, and I have like the opposite problem. Like, I might have had, I don't know, experienced some racism in my life that I never noticed because I'm like, my mind doesn't go directly there. Like, oh fuck, I gotta get my shit together, or whatever. Like that's just the way I think about it.
I feel like they don't like me for me,
like,
not because I'm Latina. I'm just like, I must have done some shit, bro. I'm never like,
me and my
it's my
girlfriend
race.
Looking for like a new place to live, right? So sometimes you go and the owner shows you the place, and you gotta sort of play the game. Like, yeah, we're decent people, we will pay even with Corona, it's all good. And like,
yeah. You're not gonna be smoking weed in the fucking bathroom.
And then the lady, right? The lady, we heard like before we got there, she was showing it to someone else, and they were having a bunch of giggles and laughs, right? Where I'm like with my girlfriend at the bottom waiting, I'm like, this motherfucking, clown motherfucker with his jokes and shit, fucking Joker over here trying to. So then we go see it, and she's cool and all. She's like really Spanish, and me and my girlfriend, like, I might pass before I speak, but my girlfriend looks like from Thailand, and she's Venezuelan. She's beautiful, but she looks like she's from Thailand. She has that exotic look. So we go right, and then I'm like, fuck, we didn't make her laugh as much as the other like guys, right? Like, and the whole time I'm just like, fuck, man, like. Babe, we gotta get our jokes like game stronger. We gotta like, get this shit. And then maybe the Spanish lady's like, no, I don't want the Spanish people. But in my mind, I mean, I'm not saying that's the case, but my mind always goes to like, what the fuck am I doing that I need to get better at?
Right.
Yeah, you were like, our joke game is weak. You never thought like, oh, it's because we're Venezuelan. Right. Like, you never
I'm like,
think
babe,
about
you bring
that
this
shit.
negative vibe to the rooms. Like, you gotta come with the fucking A game. We're trying to move out the ghetto, babe. Come on, that's fucked up, and I don't wanna make it look for people that are hearing this. I don't wanna make it look like I'm totally unaware of like racism that happens in America and in the world. It exists. It is a reality, but I just think that it is a disservice to actually having as less racism as possible when all these events of like bullshit racism come about, because it's almost like the boy who cried wolf. It's like, if we're gonna call everything racism, then when the shit happens, what are and this happens with every word.
Nobody's gonna pay attention
nowadays. Like if you're
it's diluted. It's
like we diluted like Trump is a Nazi. It's like fuck. So what's gonna happen when we actually? The guy is special and all this shit. But what are we gonna do when we have a fucking actual maniac? What are we gonna call that person?
Right.
So there's definitely an issue with the words.
Right.
The racist one is really bad, because I feel that most, like, this is how I look at it. When I look at all this shit that goes on, I'm like, man, if I was a white person that lived in a trailer park and I was broke as fuck. I had, maybe even drug problems. I'm not going anywhere in life. And all I keep hearing is how, I'm in the system keeping everyone down. Like, I could see how that person will be like, yo, fuck, what do you mean? Like, privilege? Like, I live the shittiest life. So that's why I think it's dangerous to do that. Like, I think we shouldn't, like, what's happening with the way that they're calling white people everything is very, like, it's dangerous, because that's actual racism. That's what it is. It's just because it's towards white people. They say that only white people can be racist, though, because they're the ones with power. And I'm like, man, as a Latino, I can tell you, a lot of Latinos are racist. Latinos, we
Oh
have a
my God.
hierarchy within Latinos of which countries. Like, what? No, I'm not. I'm from here. Like, I'm being real. That's that, and I'm not saying I'm like that, but that exists. That exists,
No,
Yeah.
I
and that
agree.
happens
I
also,
definitely
I'm
agree
sure,
you,
with
but I
you know,
grew up in Miami.
every race.
Yeah. I don't think one is better than the other. I think, we all have our issues, we all have our problems. Me personally, though, I think for us to sit here and say white people have privilege, white people run everything, white people are superior than other people, you classify it, that's being a white supremacist in my book. If you think that white people are so superior and we're better than all these other people, you're literally what you say that you're against. It's just the things that I've seen, man. I try and watch a lot of stuff. I try and watch both sides. I probably watch more than I should at times because sometimes I start thinking and I start kind of feeling like that. Where like we'll be watching something and I'm like, racism as a joke. That guy just broke up with her for cheating, sexist. Or something like that. And I recently just watched it was a skit on YouTube. Vox the it was a Vox employee in therapy, and the therapist was trying to break his mentality of like putting a label on everything, and like he would see he was in a room. He's like, "Why is this room white? It's all white. This is racist. Oh, why is the car out there black? That's a minority." And the therapist is trying to help him. Like, listen, it's not all racist. Not everything is a fucking category that you need to pick apart. Calm down. And I related with that so much because I think in today's world, everything is under a microscope. Everything is politicized. If I don't agree in climate change, somehow I'm a racist, sexist, misogynist pig. It's just gotten so out of hand, and I want nothing to do with it.
Unfortunately, we should want to have to do something to do with it. Just because, this is kind of why I do the podcast, because I think at a micro or macro level, we kind of have to push it a bit, because it is like us multiplied by millions of people that can make this change. And I'm not talking about like, go out there and show yourself, but like just when I go to friends' house, like if the topic comes up, I'll give my opinion and give them the facts and the arguments, and hopefully someone takes that. Obviously I don't go to places and like political minded today. Like if nobody touches the subject, I prefer not, because I'm probably not gonna be. They're not gonna agree with me. I'm not an asshole at all. Like I think I make it. I give my points to people, even progressive ones, where like they could see like, oh, I don't agree with him, but he's a nice guy. Maybe there's something to it, and I think that's important to let people know. Like, let's see, Paul, meet some of your friends that might be more progressive. I'm not saying, I'm not insinuating that your friends are progressive, but just for the example, if that's the case, then they could be like, yeah, I don't think that Paul should vote for Trump if that's the case, or have this. But you know what? He's a really nice guy and he loves her. Like that, I think lets people know like this happened to me too. I listened to this transgender guy and I understood like where he was coming from, and I was just like, oh, okay. Like there's things that I don't agree with, but he seems like a really cool person, like a person that has good intent. And I think as we do that more, I think it's gonna make a difference. Mm-hmm. But going to the categories, I found it so funny because I remember in my job, it's always like, okay, well, this is gonna be like the LGBT month, then like the Latino month, then like the Black month, and then like the Asian, and then they would talk to me like, oh, Carlos, you wanna be in? I'm like, no, not really, because it's just like, to me, that's like segregation. Like I don't want to be part of a group based on like my ethnicity or race. I don't even know what the fuck I am, So it's just like,
that's
to
literally
me, it's like
segregation, man.
Thinking that we're gonna find common ground based on where we come from is so fucking ill. It's not right. Like, you want to make groups about like computer gaming. Fuck, I'm into that. I'm gonna be cool with all those guys. Let's meet up for that, or intramural soccer, whatever the fuck.
Regardless of their ethnicity or race, like it doesn't matter.
I have gay friends.
When we try to like,
I have gay friends that even tell me about those gay groups, months or whatever. They're like, I don't like a lot of them. Like, and why should you? Like, being gay is something that's across the board. So like, why would it mean that if someone else is gay, you're gonna be cool with them? Like, it's such like a bad way of looking at it. But now that we have Daniela here, I don't want to miss this subject, because I think it's important to speak this while we have women, just so that they don't come to us and be like, yeah, of course, Paul and Kiko, they would say that, I mean, they would say that. But what do you think about the gender pay gap, or alleged pay gap? Do you think that it exists?
I think that women are more likely to not negotiate or to settle for the first offer, so then they end up getting paid less. I just think that's what happened. I mean, I don't know. I think that the pay gap has been debunked of sometimes. But there's people that say, me and my coworker were in the same level, but he's getting paid $10,000 more. And in my head, I'm not like, oh, I'm sorry for you. In my head, I'm like, you dumb girl. I bet if you'd have asked for $10,000 more, they would have given it to you. Like, you just didn't ask for it. And I think that's just a problem. Like, I recently accepted a new position, and they try to give me less, and I'm like, no, I want this more. And they're like, okay. And I was like, well, okay. But I could have easily been like, oh, no, okay, thank you for the job. No, bro, ask for the money and it'll be given it to you. And I think, just like we were talking about, race, I think sex has nothing to do with it, bro. Like, I'm going to try to get the less rate from a man and a woman and white or black or Hispanic, whatever. I'm going to try to pay you the least amount of money so I can have more money in my pocket.
We spoke this on the first podcast that we did together with Steve, where we said, like, I think I've experienced with all my employers that they are trying to equally fuck all of us at the same extent.
Yeah.
Like, I think that I've had jobs where I've been a bitch and they were like, we're going to give you this. And I'm like, for reals? And then, like, that's it. And they're like, all right, we got this kid that's overqualified. We're giving him shit money. Get the fuck out of here.
He's a sucker.
They don't care if I'm a guy or a girl. No, he's a fucking idiot. That's what he is.
No.
And, like, it's the same thing.
Right.
And you could have fierce women that that might be better at like for example, my girlfriend at the moment, she works at a financial place where she calls people and pretty much is asking them every day, like, oh, you owe this, you need to pay and shit, right? And they pretty much hire only women for that job, right? So like, I think that it is important to note that we should be equal in the name of the law. But we should definitely know our differences, because those are the things that make us unique and beautiful, right? Like the job that my girl does,
right?
I couldn't do that, but she's able to like finagle the information without sounding like, like a super mean asshole. And then get people to pay. So, and that this happens with everything. You mentioned a specific reason that has to do with the pay gap, which has to do with like not being able to debate and negotiate a better rate. Now, there's another thing too, is that some women decide to be mothers, and even though there is what we could call like the biological lottery, this goes both ways. When you're a woman, yes, you have the burden of kids if you want to have kids, and when you're a man, you have the burden of doing the most dangerous shit and probably living 10, 15 years less. And instead of complaining about it, you just gotta know that is the reality. Okay, now how do we go from this hand that I'm dealt? Because there's women that go into being lawyers. This is a very common example. They're lawyers. They get to like 30, right? Like our age. And then the firm is like, look, we want to make you a partner. You're a fucking bad lawyer. Like, you fuck shit up. And then she's like, fuck, I work 80 hours a week and this. And then she's like, but I'm already making this amount of money with this. I can be happy, have my kids. And it's like,
I'm good.
Is it bad if you choose that? Fuck, I might choose that if I had the opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, all I'm saying is, when people talk about like, oh, all CEOs are men, all this, well, it's because the people that are willing to give life up to have that, because you will not have any relationship with anybody you love, then they do that. And most that people that do that are men. But those are extreme men. I wouldn't do that. I don't want that. I want to make fucking art and bullshit and then go to sleep and party and, hopefully just have fun. I'm not this person that wants to work 80 hours a week. But it happens to be that the extreme ones are mostly men. But if you're a woman and you want to do it, you can do it. My girl is a civil engineer. And she was like one of the only ones out of that graduated that was a girl. Nobody ever told her you can't be an engineer. No, it's just that a lot of women prefer to do dentist, for example. So I think the freedom of you being able to be whatever the fuck you want is what we should make sure that we provide. But we shouldn't have quotas like we need to have 50% here, 50% here, because then.
No, man. Like we shouldn't have issues in school because most teachers are women. Men can do it too. They just don't want to. But we don't have to fucking force the school. No, you have to have 50%, and then maybe pay or select teachers that are less qualified just because they have to be a man. Like, bro, if there's no good man, they're not qualified. This is again us, I feel, sometimes making problems where there are no problems. This is not a problem because you're a woman. This is a problem because you're not qualified. Or, you're not getting paid this much because you only put 40 hours in and as soon as the clock hits, you go home. But, Andrew over here, he stays 2 hours more every day. So
and he when we look at the cases he resolves them quicker. He gets shit done. I mean, you could have the same position as, like, I have the same position as many people, and I'm valued a lot more because of the extra shit that I do.
Exactly.
So that argument already falls behind. But I'll tell you something. If you feel that you're in a place where you're not being paid what you want, ask for more. And if that's not an option, start looking for a better job. Because if you have the skill set, the market is so fierce that they don't give a fuck if you're green or fucking blue. Oh, maybe green, like maybe that's a sickness. But like the typical, I don't see color or whatever. Like, they don't give a fuck who you are as long as you can get the shit done quicker, better, faster, whatever. So I think that's my say on that. So would you say that inequality, opportunity, do you see yourself as a woman sort of the same as everybody else, or do you think there is a gap in opportunity?
Yeah. I don't think so. I think the opportunity to do whatever I want is there. The opportunity, if I wanted to go be a police officer, I can go do that. If I want to go to the military, I can do that. If I want to go to business school, anything, I can do whatever I want, but I choose not to because that kind of stuff is just not what I want. Did you watch
recently this series on Netflix called The Queen's Gambit? You watched it too, Paul? It. Would you agree with me, and this is the way I felt when I saw it, I was like, what a refreshing take on a badass bitch owning a bunch of guys where I didn't feel they were pushing a feminist agenda.
You felt like they weren't pushing a feminist agenda? Oh, wow. So there's been a lot of controversy over that show. I will agree. Listen, man, I love, watching a badass chick own, man. I liked Wonder Woman. I liked it. When I watched it, Queen's Gambit, and maybe because my mindset's been all over this categorical stuff, as soon as I started watching it, I did some have you ever heard of Jordan Peterson? Love him. I was watching some debate on women in chess, and why there's not a lot of professional or master women chess players. Something that has to do with the IQ and analytical versus emotional, something like that. And then once I saw that and I went back to watching the show, I picked apart them pushing feminist propaganda. That's what I picked up.
That's interesting.
But I think that's because I had literally just finished watching Jordan Peterson talking about women in chess. And then I'm watching this and not everything. I like the show. I like the girl who plays that. I don't know her name off the top of my head. But I started seeing it. I think along with
I didn't know there was some people that were looking at it that way.
There are some people saying that. Now, with that being said, I don't mind like a badass chick, slaying a bunch of dudes. I don't. I just think in today's climate, I've been seeing a lot.
You know what, though? It is interesting that you say that, buddy, because I feel that we sometimes also unconsciously fall to call things something. And I mean, that's just my opinion and your opinion of the piece. But I specifically watch this type of shit with this bias in my head where I'm like, okay, where is it that you're gonna push the agenda? So that's why I personally, even though I was like that throughout the whole series, I was like, oh no, this felt all right. In comparison to, for example, if you, I didn't even watch it because I already knew how it was, but I just watched some scenes of like the Goosebumps movie with women, Ghostbusters. And like the whole thing is like, oh, he's the white dumb guy, and we're the chicks, and we're cool. And I think that one was a lot
like
more
Oceans.
pushing to like, we're cool because we're chicks. While in the other one, it seemed like she was just a badass hero, and she just happened to be a woman. And of course, it does play into it that she has this lipstick and is contrasting with like the men. But I did feel that it didn't feel like it was pushing an agenda. But who knows? That's just my opinion on it. I didn't know.
Well, when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be super pushy, super, like, every man we see is going to be a bad guy, every woman we see is going to be, like, a victim, empowered, and then I watched it, and I was like, this is, like, do I feel that it was, like, a very, I mean, it's a woman-led thing, but should every woman-led role should it be a feminist? I don't know. I don't. But I thought it was pretty cool. It didn't feel like super like I'm cool because I'm a girl. No, you're cool because you're smart as fuck,
what I mean
man.
is that
she's
she
like
went
a
through
genius.
certain struggles that didn't have to really do with her being a girl. Like she's an orphan. I'm pretty sure many people can relate if you're an orphan. She's like an addict, right?
Yeah.
So you can relate to that. And she goes through these struggles that maybe not be if she wasn't a woman, she would still go through those things. I mean, there was an added struggle, which is being a woman. But I love the fact that at the end there was this respect where like when she won, they didn't try to make it look like the men were like, oh fuck this woman. No, it was like, I don't care what sex you are, you beat me in this magical game, and you deserve our respect. So like that's so but that's cool. Interesting. Yeah. I guess, with the whole cancel culture nowadays, do you think that we're going to start seeing more edgy stuff now that we have Netflix and other outputs? And that the media, the normal media that we would normally know as like, TV and late night shows that are just talking bullshit. Do you think eventually we're just going to have things be more real? Like this type of podcast that we're doing, shit like that?
I hope so.
I think it's gonna get worse. Comedians can't even do comedy now because it's an offensive thing. So we cannot laugh about this. We cannot laugh about that.
Right. I would love to see a world where this political correctness stuff didn't go away, because I'm sure it has its place, in some places. But like, it's just gone so far to where comedians are getting kicked off a stage, for making fun of someone in a wheelchair or a cancer patient, to where, I
mean, that's fucked up.
Well, that's what comedy is, though. Comedy is supposed to put a smile on something that is so sad.
No.
If I didn't smile, I'd cry. To me, that's what comedy is. Being able to laugh at something.
Like dark comedy.
Yeah, but I do like dark comedy.
I gotta agree
with Burr,
with Paul there. I think that if you are not into
so comedy's for
edgy, or edgy sounds like corny, but
I mean, I laugh at it, but then I feel bad.
If you're not into that type of comedy, I think you want to listen to other comedy. But
don't watch it.
Yeah, but don't watch it. Exactly.
That's what I do.
I think people. I don't understand why people like to cancel shit. Sometimes I listen to comedy where I'm like, wow, you're just going with the trend. Like you just like, and I'm just like, whatever. You can do that. I don't care. Like when people like late night shows, you do like this always Trump jokes, which it's not that I care about the guy. It's just like it's just easy. It's like low hanging fruit. I don't want you to get canceled. If you want my personal opinion, I think you're gonna cancel yourself because it's shit content. But I don't understand people that are trying to like bring people down. Because he's being offensive. Like, do you understand? We're out here, or the people that are doing this, and myself when I'm doing this shit too. I'm trying to fucking be funny. Like I'm a good person. I love everybody. But understand that when you're trying to push that line to be funny, there's gonna be sometimes things that sound not as pretty, but it doesn't mean that that's who you are. You're just fucking around, and And obviously, there's that line between when you fuck around with your friends, right? The locker room that we were talking about, and then this. Sometimes I cross over there. That's an issue.
Right. I think just everything is put under a microscope today. Everything might have an ulterior motive for everybody. When I watch things from the '90s and things from the '80s and George Carlin, and I like to see comedy is something, when a cancer patient, a cancer patient is very sad. It's not that I don't like cancer patients. I feel for them. It's terrible. It's a terrible situation. But what better to do than make some kind of levity from it? Be able to put some kind of light in this dark thing. That's where I like to see comedy. I don't see it as, you watch Bill Burr? Love Bill Burr. I love F is for Family, the show. And I think part of the reason why I like him so much, his comedy is gold to me. But part of the reason why I like him so much is because he says these things that nobody else is really allowed to say right now. It's almost like he has a pass. He's on Netflix. Netflix won't let anybody else. Tom Segura, they almost removed him for
saying retarded.
A joke.
Yeah.
Retarded, that's what he said. He said the R word.
I'm not a fan, but he's like, to me, one of like the mildest ones.
Right, I agree. And I don't think Bill Burr would say the R word, although he has said some other things that even I'm like...
Well, I mean, we can go further with Louis C.K. and Dave Chappelle. I think with Dave Chappelle...
Right.
I don't want to... bro. He says some things, man.
Today.
Especially today.
Yeah. He gives no fucks.
Yeah, especially like from what I've seen, his old stuff to today, I feel like he's removed all filters. I think he's gotten so sick of where things are, where he's like, "Fuck this shit." I see that stuff that I like to watch. Someone that's like, I don't give a fuck, man. I don't care if this person's gonna blog about me afterwards. I don't care. I'm going to say it, and you can try and cancel.
Yeah, I mean,
me
he can do it because he has that power, right? Bill Burr has that power.
Does.
Oh yeah.
There are some of them. I think Louis C.K. has that power. Now he's coming back out of his his situation, right? So well, he's a comedian.
Yeah,
one of my favorite comedians.
Did he have like a sex
thing? He jerked off in front of two chicks in a hotel, but he asked them. Huh?
They weren't minors.
Not minors. No, women.
They weren't minors.
He asked them, yeah.
And he asked them.
And then they were like saying that because he has power over them, they felt that if they didn't say yes, that he was gonna. So like that all turned out into a little Me Too. And he got all these deals taken away. And like at the end of the day, yeah, is the guy a bit creepy? Yeah, but is that like a sexual assault? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But
like Shia.
Like what?
Shia.
Oh, Shia LaBeouf. What happened with him?
What's his last name?
Shia LaBeouf.
One of his ex-girlfriends, I think, is having a similar...
Oh, yeah, Sia, right?
Like something about...
Sia? Oh, yeah.
I don't know the story.
Well, that one, I don't know what happened, so
I don't know
I'm
the
not
story.
sure with that one. But with the CK one, it was that situation where, like, the most that you could say is, like, well, the guy's weird, but, yeah...
Creepy.
But I mean...
Right, he's creepy. He definitely didn't rape anybody.
Yeah, but companies also have the right to not want to be associated with somebody.
Well, then we have the Johnny Depp situation.
Oh, yeah, what about that situation?
Johnny
That's pretty
Depp.
fucked up.
It's fucked up.
So Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, Amber Heard made these false allegations that he beat her, he did all these things, when the evidence shows the contrary. She is on audio saying, yeah, he never hit me. I was the one hitting him. I was the one abusing him. Took it to court. The judge denied everything and said, no. Believe women. Amber Heard's right here. Case dropped. And Warner Bros. Said, sorry, Johnny. We know we see the evidence. It shows that you're innocent.
Like you when you got fired.
Same thing. But, with the judge approving this, or, we have to let you go. And Warner Bros. Fired him. Warner Bros. or Universal? It was Warner Bros. Fired him. Pirates of the Caribbean, gone. This other one,
no, the animals one.
Not Harry Potter, but this, yeah,
what
gone. But luckily, Johnny Depp has people like me, you know, who I can see through the bullshit. I can see through the PC garbage, the believe women, Me Too shit. And bro, I'm logical. I look at the evidence. Fuck this bitch, man. You know, obviously she's wrong. If the evidence is there, bro, you're innocent until proven guilty. These crazy well, you know, it might not have been convicted like Brett Kavanaugh. He was never convicted, but, you know, she did say...
Yeah.
She did say what?
I think it's actually dangerous,
right,
and this is the same concept with everything we've talked about. Like the boy cry wolf. It's dangerous when you call everything something, because then, like, what happens with actual rape victims? Like this is supposed to be left for those horrific acts, and then when you call everything that, like, if I was a rape victim, I'd be like, yo, bitch, shut the fuck up. You're not, like, somebody touched your leg. You haven't been assaulted. Like, don't think you're like me. I went through shit. Right? And I actually, if you were to ask me what to do with like sex offenders, I would kill them. Like, that's the law that I have.
Castrate
is to kill them.
Hang
like,
them.
So, like, I have no problem with like, oh, I'm not defending them at all, as long as we're able to prove it. I'm just trying to. But on the same side, it's like, bro. I hate when people say, why would she lie? Well, why would anyone do anything wrong? I mean, why would anyone try to get a revenge on someone? Like, there's so many fucking reasons why anyone would do that. So, like, why would she lie?
Reasons,
well,
money.
I can tell you 1,000
Easy.
if you give me 5 minutes. Like, there's many reasons. Now, is it fucked up that it's a delicate situation
Absolutely.
where at times it's hard to prove it? Yes. But it does have to be that delicate of an investigation, because otherwise we're going to have a witch hunt, and this is actually going to hurt the ones that we're supposed to be protecting with all this. So,
right. Just what you said. You said your opinion, sex offenders, we should kill them. Might want to make sure they're guilty before
Correct.
we kill an innocent person. You know, because that's what I think it is. Once you slap that label on someone, you're done. You're done. Your career... your social life, you're done. Let's make sure this is real, you know, and especially because of all the false allegations in the past.
Well, there was one case I always bring up where was this kid at a college, and they were both drunk. They were like 18, 19, and then like in the very late morning, he texts her like, "Oh, let's chill." She's like, "Okay, cool, come over, bring the condom," and then they have sex, and the next day she sort of like feels regret about having sex with this guy. Turns him in.
I shouldn't have done that.
They look at the text where she's like, yeah, come. But then they decide that because she was drunk, she couldn't have consented. Well, the boy was drunk too. So then right there, what you're saying is the woman is inferior and in the same conditions cannot make decisions as the men. So who the fuck is a sexist here? Because,
they raped each other.
Like it's this double standard that I think... it's bad, because
it's crazy.
So like, what, when a woman is driving drunk, she wouldn't, I mean, she still gets DUI. They don't say like, oh, you're a woman, you weren't able to consent to driving, so no, you're gonna get your DUI, get your shit taken away, and pay fucking $15,000 and destroy your life.
You're a woman, you didn't know what you were doing.
Right. Yeah, that's the same story with Aziz Ansari. The same thing happened to him. The footage shows them at a bar.
I didn't know about the footage, so actually tell me, but I did hear about it.
The footage, there's footage of him in the bar with the woman. The woman is all over him. They leave the bar together. They show footage in the lobby of his building. She's dragging him by the arm to the elevator. In the morning, they show her leaving, like fixing herself with a little pep in her step. 2 days later, she goes, shit, I should have never done that. He sexually assaulted. He raped me. And he was under fire. They slapped the label on him, but luckily that footage saved him.
Was that the one with the text?
Footage never surfaced. It wasn't a text.
No, because
there might have been text as well.
One
but what
I
saved
heard
him
about
is
was
the
with some
footage.
text where she was like, oh, I didn't think what happened yesterday was good, cool, some shit like that.
Maybe.
And pretty much
I
like,
think so.
She's like, why did you think that I wanted to do this? And he's like, well, we were both naked, like blowing each other. I thought like that's where it was going to.
I think so.
And then like, when I heard you moaning, I thought, you know, it meant
I think
like,
I remember reading that. You enjoyed it.
You're enjoying this,
and
right?
Then you know what was the most fucked up part? And I do understand him being this nice guy, why he took that route. Like, he did a special, which actually was surprisingly good. I've always liked him as a comedian, but I thought he was gonna be a little more woke.
I've never seen
He's
him
actually pretty
stand up.
good, and he used to be better when he was less woke. But I'm not saying he's woke. I mean, I'm putting a label on it. But he's more careful because he's more famous, you know. So on his last special, he actually opened explaining the whole situation and apologizing and all of this, and it felt like now you're telling them you were being a creep, like.
Yeah. Once you apologize, you just admitted guilt.
I think you could say, look, for people that go through certain situations, I'm sorry if this made you feel a certain way about it, but I'll be honest with you, I did not do anything wrong. I did not do anything that the other person didn't want. My only thing being guilty is of having a one-night stand with a chick that wanted to be with me. I don't know. I think there was a better way of wording it where you still look like a gentleman.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying like go out there and be like, yo, this bitch, fuck her. No, like you can be a gentleman, but still be like, hey, I have integrity. I know who I am, type shit. But yeah, man, those things are very. There's a comedian I like, Chris D'Elia, and he I don't even know what happened with him because he just disappeared, and there's no evidence of it. It seems like he was talking to some underage girls on Twitter, but they never really met. Which to me is like if you're 40 and you're talking to a 17-year-old, like, dude, like, step your game up. You got money, like, go get women. But is that rape? No, it isn't. So, like, because it never met or whatever. No. So it's just like we're just getting anything. Like, whatever happens out there, we're just grabbing it and we're like, fuck this. And I think eventually people don't understand that everyone's recorded. Everyone has pictures. And eventually, shit's gonna pop off. Like, did you notice recently, like, Jimmy Kimmel, they popped off some blackface from, like, back in the day, and, like, Trudeau from Canada. It's like,
90s.
Yeah, if you search, everyone has shit, So it's like, I find it so dangerous for us to be in a society now where we're just witch hunting everybody, and hopefully there will be a correction.
We're looking for it now. Yeah, we're literally looking for it now. Like, it's not like we stumbled upon it. Like, we're like, we don't like Jimmy Kimmel. Let's look through all of his past. We're bound to find something so we can cancel him. You're literally looking for
with the Jimmy Kimmel, I think people were like, people that were anti-woke were like, oh, you're woke? Well, look at this hypocrite.
Yes.
Which, I mean, doesn't help either.
Exactly, hypocrite.
I thought you were so woke.
But I guess you understand why the other side attacks too, because it's like, you want to be woke, but you did. So it's just like a battle of like, how about we just stop looking at each other's past and that's it. Like Kevin Hart went through some shit like that too.
We're all guilty.
And, it's just, do you think that we're making up problems because there are no problems? Meaning our grandparents and parents like maybe went through like other crises or like World War, and there was shit to like actually worry about. And now things, I mean, obviously we have a situation going on now that is very harsh, but in general, the world is so much better today than ever that it seems like people just want to look for something to like get their feathers up or.
Yeah, I think there's people out there that think it's more racist today than in the 60s. There are some people who, I agree with you, they want to, maybe they watched Forrest Gump too many times and they want to be, a part of it or something, and they just need to maybe make something so they can fight against it because it ain't there. Who knows? But I will agree that, life, our parents and grandparents had it much harder than we do. Today's ain't so bad, man. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of issues that we still have. I think racism is still out there. I think there are transphobic people out there. I think there are sexist people out there. I think it's an issue, but is it like the biggest issue to date? No. Can we not like get on with our lives because of it and be successful? Absolutely not. I think everybody has an opportunity, whether they see it or not, to make something of themselves. And to slap a label on it and say, I'm not doing it because my boss is sexist and, my teacher is homophobic and putting yourself in this box to be a victim, I think once you do that, you're done. You now have that mentality of being a victim, and I don't see a lot of people who are victims make it to the top unless you're already there, like a Jussie Smollett, for instance. He was talented. He got to where he was because of talent, but he wanted to get further. So did that, and all it did was push
make
back.
Him look like a dumbass.
Like a dumbass.
I think today we're better than it's ever been, and to keep pushing the social bar of being more tolerable, we also need to address that we're pretty good at the moment. Like, we've done a lot, but if we always say, no, this is bullshit, then how are we, like, okay, let's address that we've done a lot, okay, and now let's look at the things that are missing. But let's not go crazy like this is, segregation 1960s or something. Because if not, we're not gonna get further than that.
Right.
Paul was telling me before we started the podcast that it might be possible for a podcast to be started by Paul individually and also as a couple. I'm here asking you a bit on the spot, but what is the probability of this happening? Because not only will I be super glad to help you with it, but I will be a fan because I think it will be really good, interesting topics.
We definitely have been talking about it. We definitely want to do it. We just got this nice new microphone, and work out a schedule.
We just have to do
Time
it.
is never on our hands. Yes.
I feel like people are like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be. We have two ideas. Our first one that involves more of us as a couple to do like videos to where maybe I might ask her some questions that people might feel uncomfortable talking to women about, and vice versa, asking men some uncomfortable questions. Along that path, right? Something like that. And then the second one would be based around addiction in recovery and like interviewing people and not so much of a formal layout, and kind of just get to peel back layers of things that you can't do in traditional meetings, to where you can't curse maybe and you can't interrupt, you can't talk about God, you can't talk about the Bible and stuff like that. So a little bit less traditional interview with people in recovery.
We'll keep you updated.
We'll keep you updated, yes.
2021.
Just to add to that that you said, Paul, I think it would actually, it could actually create like an accountability for you, for your own recovery, and for the recovery of other people.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
Not only that could help you, but I think will help so many people that don't have access or don't feel comfortable going to like an actual meeting. Being able to first see it and get the first grasp of how it could be, and even seeing the format be not formal, make them be like, okay, this is how I can express it. Because I personally don't know much about this, but I think there should be a format where you can just talk about it however you want, so that you can really express yourself. So you guys let me know if it does eventually happen. I'll be more than glad to help.
We definitely will.
And super glad that you were here today. This episode has been great. We touched so many topics, and I could go on forever.
So many.
So we'll
many.
have you guys back on our podcast, and hopefully we'll be able to watch you in your own podcast soon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. My
Thank
pleasure,
you,
Danny
Kiko
and
Flo.
Paul. And for, for all the
Spin that
Broski
fire.
girls out there, thank you for watching. And if you have any comments for me and for the guests, please let us know. It's always interesting to know what you think.